Hi, so I'm heading to the Ford Theater today, the theater where Abraham Lincoln got assassinated at. So I'm on the metro right now. So I just want to talk about the metro station in DC. It's way more easier to get around, in my opinion, on the metros in DC versus New York. It's really hard to get, it's kind of impossible to get lost, because you have maps everywhere. So these stations have these screens where it's telling you where the next stop is at and how many stops they have until they get to your destination. And this is something that I did not see in New York, so this is so much helpful, this screen here. So yeah, I'm just gonna do a little recording so you can see, have a little view. It's empty right now, so I gotta record. The Ford Theater.
Please make your way up. Good afternoon, and once again, welcome to the Ford Theater. Here's 245 Regent Club, and begin approximately 5 minutes. We ask you please make your way up to the theater at this time. Once again, you have 245 Regent Club, and begin approximately 5 minutes. Thank you.
Which guarantees every default right to a speedy trial by its peers.
Let's go eat somewhere then. So we can go back to where we want to go.
birth and freedom. And government of the people.
One fourth shall not perish from the earth.
Long before Ronald Reagan established himself as the great communicator, long before Franklin Roosevelt's fireside chats, Abraham Lincoln transformed the American presidency from administrator-in-chief to public persuader and moral advocate. Gettysburg, following a savage battle in the summer of 1863, Lincoln redefined
with what transpires at the end of the Civil War and the assassination that occurs here at Ford's Theater on April 14th, 1865. So I'll talk a little bit about that. But to kind of zero in on Lincoln's last week that he's alive, it's really important to kind of look at that, and not just for, in the case of the Lincoln family, but the case of the nation itself. It's a really eventful week. It's going to begin promisingly enough on Sunday, April 9th, 1865, in Central Virginia at a place called Appomattox Courthouse. That Sunday afternoon, April 9th, in a small kind of farm settlement there, you're going to have Confederate General Robert E. Lee surrender to Union General Ulysses S. Grant. And after that surrender takes place, for all intents and purposes, the Civil War is over. And so the news of the surrender is going to be sent by telegraph, and it's going to arrive at the War Department telegraph office, which is pretty much right across the street from where the White House is. In fact, that War Department telegraph office, that was the major news conduit for Abraham Lincoln during the Civil War. He would often go there multiple times during the day just to kind of monitor the ebb and flow of the Civil War. And so the news of the surrender is going to get out to Lincoln and to Washingtonians here. And it's going to trigger this huge wave of celebrations throughout the week. Night after night, people are going out, they're dining, they're dancing. Many of them are imbibing heavily. And there are other celebrations throughout that week. Some evenings there are fireworks that are shot off over the city. Many of the public buildings are illuminated. And there's a large crowd the night after that surrender. So it's the next day. It's Monday, April 10th, 1865 here in Washington, D.C. And this large throng of well-wishers, perhaps on a whim, perhaps on design, some of them decide, hey, let's go over to the White House. So they want to go over to the White House. And as they arrive at the White House, there's this crowd that's forming on the north side of the White House. So we're Lafayette Park pretty much as today. And some of them are shouting up at the windows asking for Abraham Lincoln to come out and give a speech. Now, I'll let you in on a little secret about Lincoln. He's known as a great writer, a great orator, but Lincoln hated to speak off the cuff. He had found from experience that when he spoke extemporaneously, the words just didn't come out right. And he doesn't have anything prepared. So he comes out of a second-story window on the north side of the White House, and he acknowledges the crowd. He's happy that they're there, but he tells them that he doesn't have any special words to share with them that evening. But if they come back the following night, he may indeed have something special to share with them. So the same thing occurs the following night. It's Tuesday, April 11th, 1865, and now word has gotten out that Lincoln may be giving a major speech. And so it's an even larger crowd that evening. So Tuesday, April 11th, 1865, Lincoln again steps out of a second-story window, and he starts to give a speech. Now, most people do not know this speech. It doesn't have the memorable lines of the Gettysburg Address or the Second Inaugural Address, but it's a very Lincoln-esque speech. And it's a very analytical speech. It's giving you some inner workings into Lincoln's mind and to things that are weighing heavily on his mind at the end of the Civil War. So many in the crowd are expecting a celebratory speech about the smashing Union victory over the enemy, the Confederacy. After all, these are states, enemy states that decided to leave our nation and fight against the United States. So that's what most of the people in the crowd want. But Lincoln doesn't give this speech. He starts to talk about Reconstruction, and he talks at length. He talks about how you might patch the nation up again, how you might bring these renegade southern states back into the Union fold. And he's going to highlight one Confederate state in particular. He's going to spend a lot of time talking about Louisiana. Louisiana, more so than most of these other Confederate states, it's made the most strides to meet the federal requirements to be readmitted back into the country. And so Lincoln is going to kind of hold up Louisiana as a standard bearer for how these other enemy states might be readmitted back into the Union fold. After speaking about Louisiana at length, he's going to change course, and he's going to make a very public confession, something he's never said before publicly. He's going to tell those gathered in the crowd that evening that he's convinced that certain black males deserve the right to the vote. Now, this is going to be met by polite applause, but there's one spectator standing outside listening to the president who is incensed by this. In fact, he'll utter a racial epitaph, and he'll turn to a fellow colleague, a fellow conspirator, and he'll say, "By God, I'll put him through." In other words, I'll end his life. That's the last speech he'll ever make. And you may have guessed that that person is John Wilkes Booth. Unfortunately for us, for posterity, John Wilkes Booth is going to keep his word. Later on that week, at the end of the week, Friday, April 14th, 1865, there's a play scheduled here at Ford's Theater. It's a 3-act play of British comedy called Our American Cousin. It's a very popular play. Even people that have not seen the play know some of the more humorous lines. And so it's had a very successful run. But there is a problem for the theater staff. It falls on a religious holiday. That particular Friday is Good Friday, and usually with religious holidays such as this, there's a sizable downturn in attendance at the theater. But fortuitously, for the theater, there is a messenger that's sent over from the White House bringing a note that's been written by Mary Lincoln, the First Lady. And Mary Lincoln says she'd like to accept the open invitation to come and attend the theater that night, and she's bringing her husband with her, the president. So the president and First Lady will be coming, and very likely, 2 special guests. He comes out on the street to the front door. He looks out at the home street. He calls to the soldiers and says, "Bring him here." They'll bring him to a back bedroom. President Lincoln's going to survive a lot longer than the doctors had predicted. I think about maybe 2-3 hours at best. Survives a little more than 9 hours. But early the next morning, Abraham Lincoln, at 7:22 a.m., Saturday, April 15th, 1865, breathes his last. As for John Wilkes Booth, 12 days later after making his escape, he's in a tobacco barn there at the Garrett Farm, refusing to give himself up. Soldiers are getting exasperated with Booth. So one of the soldiers decides to light that tobacco barn on fire to try and smoke John Wilkes Booth out of the barn. As those flames start to rise and lick the walls of the barn, some of the soldiers that are gathered closer in, they think they're catching glimpses of John Wilkes Booth between some of the slats in the tobacco barn. Some of them closer in still are convinced that John Wilkes Booth is raising up with a firearm to shoot at them. And so Boston Corbett of the New York Regiment Cavalry, he'll take out a revolver, he'll fire a single shot. It's going to hit John Wilkes Booth in the back, severing his spinal column. And Booth will only live 2 more hours after this. So Booth he says a number of things before he dies. His two final words are just one word repeated. While looking at his hands, Booth simply says, useless. Useless. Now, why would he say this? Probably in plotting his course of revenge, this assassination. He hoped that there might be people in the United States, people perhaps who had left the nation to fight for the Confederacy, people that had no qualms with slavery, that did not see blacks as potentially equal to whites, that would hail him as a hero. But he's disavowed of this notion. For while he makes his escape, he's given a Richmond, Virginia newspaper that has long been sympathetic to the Confederacy during the Civil War. If any newspaper is going to call him a hero, this is the newspaper. And in a lengthy account of the deed of his escape, again and again, Booth is being called out as a coward. So all has been lost. The reputation of his famous acting family has been tarnished. Here's the far more difficult thing to think about in terms of what John Wilkes Booth actually does, because it's the opposite of what he intends.
Excuse me. How do we get to the Peterson house from up here?
Down the spiral staircase that you came up.
Okay.
And the door's open. You can go right across the street.
Thank you.
The hall.
Okay.
Feel free to ask me any questions or anything that you like. If you just want to look around, that's totally fine.
Thank you.
When you're done in the room where you passed, there's a hallway that goes to the elevator. That elevator has exhibits about the active.
How accurate is the description?
So the wallpaper is the original.
This is the Peterson house. This is the house where Abraham Lincoln passed away at. He spent his final hours here after he was shot.
Bedroom, parlor, those are Civil War patterns, but walls and the same thing.
Okay, and when did it become, like, people live here after he passed away?
Okay, so the Petersons keep trying to run this place as a boarding house for 6 years. They both died in 1871 when this business kind of dries up.
So this house is right across the street from the Ford Theater, literally. And I think the indentation on the bed is where I guess Abraham Lincoln laid it down at. I guess that's why it's like that.
The house was finally sold in about 1878, I want to say, to another family. They lived here for a little while, but they're encountering the same issues of South Modernism. So, then the house sold like a local organization. They let the Civil War veteran pay like $1 rent per year and use the place as a museum for his there's carpeted with wall-to-wall pictures, random artifacts.
Oh, this is the bed. I take it back. This is the bed where he died at. They have pictures here. And then, obviously the son here. Now he belongs to the ages. In this room, Abraham Lincoln died at 7:22 a.m. April 15, 1865.
And then the Park Service
Hi. I'm good. Going up. Bye.
Let me have a moment. If you'll take your men 50 yards from the door, I'll come out and fight you. Give me a chance for my life. We did not come here to fight. My brave boys. Prepare a stretcher for me.
Look at all these Lincoln books. Oh my gosh. It's as tall as this building.
Built as a monument to a national hero. Yet the Lincoln Memorial has become a temple to his ideals.
Demonstrators marched to the Lincoln Memorial, laying out and barricaded against
the theater's right over there. Right across the street from, literally right across the street from where the place where he passed away is at. Right up these stairs here. So, and then all down this street here is like Abraham Lincoln related restaurants and shops and stuff. Like this one place here is called Lincoln's Waffle House Shop, and it has like a bunch of things that he liked eating, I guess. But yeah, it's basically a little dinery that I guess he used to eat at. I mean, of course, back then it was a lot different, but you know, they just updated with times. But yeah, I hope you guys like enjoyed this little tour of the Ford Theater House and the Peterson House. I'm definitely going to head back to the subway metro area because it's kind of chilly, and I will definitely come back out here again some other time to record some more stuff. Bye bye guys.